at 15 minutes. All right, this is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. A lot of things happening in the sports right now. Exciting time if you're a basketball fan. Basketball is okay, but like I tell you all the time, basketball is just something until football comes back around. But you have to be, as a fan of any kind of sport, when competition takes place where things can be settled on the field or on the court or wherever. And that's what's taking place in the NBA. The playoffs actually begin on Saturday, but they have this thing called a play-in tournament where you take seeds 7 through 10 and have them sorted out for the final two spots. How it works is the 7th seed will host the 8th seed. Whoever wins that game goes to the playoffs as the 7th seed. The loser of that game will go and play the winner of the 9-10 game. The lower seed, of course, will host. That's what started last night when you had Orlando take on Atlanta. Now, these two teams played on Sunday to close the regular season out, but it was like a G League game because nobody was playing. Well, everybody has to play now, and if you betting on certain players to show up and do certain things, there's no more sitting out now because everybody's trying to win a championship. If you're available and you got a pulse and you're a star player or a player expected to contribute, you're going to be out there now. There's no more load management. Well, the Magic ran off the Hawks last night, and they're going to take the 7th seed and they're going to go take on Boston. That means the Hawks fall to the play-in game that's going to take place between the 9th and the 10th seed, and it escapes me at this moment who's playing. But the winner of that game is going to play Atlanta for the right to go play Cleveland in the first round of the playoffs. Now, in the interest of seeing something exciting, I hope that somebody from the play-in tournament, preferably a number 10 seed, plays their way into the tournament and goes and knocks off one of those top seeds. That would be great to see. Will it happen? Probably not. Now, on the Western side, a lot more tenuous action because it was a log jam to see who was going to end up with what seed all the way down to the last game. Half the games didn't mean anything, and the teams that didn't have anything to lose, they set all their players out, and that kind of set the stage for what took place. But one game that did matter was Golden State taking on the Clippers, and the Clippers outlasted the Warriors in overtime, and that left Golden State as the 7th seed to host number 8 Memphis. They got it on last night, and man, get out of here. You know, take care of this crap here right now. Let me move. So, what I was saying, the Grizzlies got it on with Golden State last night, and it was a tight affair, and Golden State was able to pull it out. And one thing I'm noticing about Golden State, all this time they've been talking about Jimmy Butler and how he's could be a difference maker for Golden State. But when I look at the stat line, he's got 8 or 9 points, hardly any rebounds, and few assists. He wasn't really contributing, as far as I was concerned. And then now that the playoffs are tightening up and they have to win, now we're starting to show up on the offensive end. He scored over 20 points the last 3 or 4 games, and last night he got over 30. So this guy, Butler, if he can continue to score like that, then I think that he is going to be a force to deal with as Golden State moves through the playoffs. All right, let's see what this is. The time for this crap. All right. So that leaves Memphis to go to take on the loser of tonight's game between Sacramento and I forget who that. I think is it Utah? The 9-10 game is going to have to play Memphis for that final spot, the number 8, and whoever wins that game is going to end up playing Oklahoma City in the first round. and that's going to make for a pretty good Western Conference. Um, that's going to make for a pretty good Western Conference playoffs, and that begins on Saturday as well. But real quick, the situation that you see on the thumbnail there, a couple weeks ago, a West Virginia high school basketball player was arrested for actions on the court. It wasn't that the elbow that you see there was the catalyst, but they're saying that all of his actions that night, he was going after players trying to assault them. So the player doing that elbow shot ended up breaking the guy's nose, and it was bled for several hours. And his parent pushed the idea that this guy should be arrested. So they arrested him on one count of malicious assault for that elbow, and then they got him for attempted assault for several other things that he did. And the question is, should this be allowed? Well, if a guy's going around doing all this elbowing and causing all this carnage over the history of sport, that's been resolved by the other team. You can't do that so many times before you get retaliated upon. Now, if this team allowed this to happen and they let this guy run free, then I think that's on them. Somebody should have checked this guy, and you want to have a legal issue involved. Yeah, it might be a little skirmish on the court, but he'll know next time that we're not going to tolerate that. But evidently they allowed that to happen, and now one of the players got hurt, and this guy's going to jail. Now, there's not a whole lot of instances where players have been arrested for actions taken during games of sport. But in 1990, there was a rec league brawl that took place on the basketball court where one guy was convicted of assault. And he must have beat up somebody real bad to be convicted of assault from sport, because most of the time, all that stuff get washed away, because when you agree to play sports, you're agreeing or consenting to some level of violence, which takes the assault language, the language of assault, off the table. So for that guy to get convicted, he had to do something really, really heinous. Now, you hear people talk all the time about people should get arrested, or that's an egregious hit. There have been some criminal level hits taking place, especially in my beloved football. But again, once you put those pads on, you got to expect that anything can happen at any time. And that is the reason why no football players that I know of have been arrested for actions taken during play. Now, if they were to start arresting football players, compounded with the fact that they're trying to legislate serious contact out of the game, then I'd already predicted that football is going to be out of here in 30, 40 years. It's just going to speed up the process if you start arresting the players. And I, for one, don't think that's a good thing. So the question is, should this guy be arrested? I think he should be punished, but not necessarily by the courts. I think this should have been meted out on the court by the opposing team. If he's going around maliciously trying to elbow and push people around and try to hurt them, and enough to the point where he's going to be charged with assault, then I think the other team should have stepped up and did something to him. He goes to the hole, hard foul him, and then keep on fouling him until you hit the wall. The benches might clear, or it might be a scuffle that take place, but by the time he straightened himself out, he'll know that this is not going to be tolerated, and that would have been straightened out early on in the first quarter. But they didn't do that, and it was allowed to escalate, and here we are today talking about high school players being arrested for actions taken on the court. Let's see what we got here. Caden says Lakers in 5. I forget who the Lakers are playing in the first round, but maybe you might win the first round, but I don't see you going very much past that first round. Maybe you can get a run on. Anybody can get a run on. Let me see, man. You sound like a real sucker. All right. But it's going to be interesting in the Western Conference. I just don't see the Lakers going much past that first round. All right. Now, the other thing that people are talking about, the other day, Tennessee made news by pretty much cutting ties with their quarterback, Amaliva. Well, it was reported that he wanted more money than it was agreed upon with his NIL agreement. Now, there are reports coming out of Tennessee now that compounds the situation by giving some background information on what's going on behind the scenes. Apparently, according to the reports, there have been grumblings all along inside Tennessee, not just from the quarterback, from other players. Why? Not because the original NIL deal. JC, how you doing? Not because the original NIL deal is that the deal did not include the playoffs. So word is that the players were considering not playing the playoffs because the NIL deals did not include entering the playoffs. And the reason for something like that is that there's a lot more money in the pot now that you include a playoff berth. So the players wanted some of that money. And it's a logical argument coming from the players. And with all this money floating around now, this is not regular college sports anymore. This is lower level professional sports, lower level professional football. Not enough money floating around like the NFL, but there's enough out there to make this a professional sport. So now these players are behaving in a professional manner. You told me that I'm going to get this kind of money, and this is for the regular season. Maybe if I make the conference championship, you can add that to it. But when you start talking about the playoffs and that bigger pot of money, well, let's negotiate that now. And this is what they're saying is going on behind the scenes at Tennessee. And if it is going on behind Tennessee, you can bet it went on behind the scenes at other schools too. And the word is now, and I think this is more of an excuse, that Tennessee players pretty much threw the game against Ohio State because they weren't getting paid for it. I don't believe that part of it because if you notice, all the money that's on the line once these games start, that money part goes out the window. We worry about the money after the game, and that's generally where it goes. It doesn't matter how much money you make, how you play is just going to be how you play, and you're not going to be able to, if I get $1 million deal now, I'm not going to be able to double my performance on a consistent basis just because the money is there now. You're going to go as far as you're going to go anyway. But once the game is over, then you start talking about the money. So I'm going to throw out the fact that they're talking about throwing the game against Ohio State out because of the money. I think they just got beat by Ohio State. And it would have happened again consistently if they'd kept playing, kind of like in a series of baseball or basketball. So the other part of that, though, I can certainly agree or see how players would want to get more of the money that they were not initially agreed upon. Colleges cuff that for themselves. Now, moving forward, money for the playoffs. So I guess Hypo, after everything that went down during December and all of that, he just got tired of it and said, look, we're not going to fool with that. Either you're going to agree to what we came up with or you just got to go, man. And I kind of agree with that. And moving over to pro football on that same vein is Pittsburgh needing a quarterback, and they putting all their eggs in the basket of a 41-year-old quarterback that might retire at any time. So I told you before, either you're going to sign with us or you're not. And evidently, he's going to take his sweet time, and eventually he may sign with somebody else. But that's Pittsburgh's fault. You let them string you out like that, then you should get strung out. So that's just the way I see it. But I agree with Hypo cutting the cord on Amaliva because there's going to be other quarterbacks out there that can play just as good as he can, and maybe he won't fold in the playoffs like this guy Amaliva did. But just want to let you know that it was behind-the-scene grumblers that these players, they wanted to hold out against Ohio State. Again, I don't believe it, but I understand that they wanted more money, and I think that this is an overall issue that Tennessee has been dealing with, and Hypo just got tired of the whole thing, and it just so happened it boiled up when this guy tried to hold out of practice to try to get more money. Well, I'd have got rid of him too. That's just the only way that you can do it. So we'll see how that unfolds, and you know it's going to be more reports and investigations on that particular topic to find out just how true it is about the Tennessee players wanting to duck out of that game. But just to recap, the West Virginia basketball player was arrested for malicious assault and 2 accounts of attempted malicious assault for going after a couple other players during the game. Well, again, if he's going around doing all this during the game, it should never got to the point where the authorities get involved. That other team should have checked him if he was going around running like he was crazy. They should have did something to him on the court, and that would have stopped all of that, and we wouldn't be talking about it here today. But you know, if you look on that thumbnail, that was you can see that was a potential of a vicious elbow he had lined up there, and the guy, you know, the force of the blow caused him to bleed for about 4 hours. So you know he hit him pretty hard. You know, it don't take much to kill a human. If you hit him just right and with just enough force, hey, that could have been a fatal blow. It almost happened to Rudy Tomjanovich about in the late 70s when that guy punched him. He had spinal fluid and all in his head. So he almost died. It can happen. So don't think it can't. But as far as athletes being arrested, rare is the day, and it's going to continue to be rare. And if you're going to arrest somebody for that, then you're going to have people that won't even get involved with that if the possibility exists if you can go to jail for playing a sport. So I don't know. But more playing games tonight with the NBA. I know Miami's playing Chicago, and then the Kings are playing. I can't remember who the Kings are playing. But that should be pretty good basketball again tonight. So anyway, I appreciate you guys chiming in with me. And unless there's some breaking news, I'll see you guys on the flip side. I got some talk about baseball, high school baseball, but I don't have time to get into it right now. But see some improvement with my team, and I want to talk about that a little bit. But that's for another show. In the meantime, wherever you are in the world, have a great day. This has been Coach Hall. And I catch you guys on the other side. But in the meantime, I got to go to work. So I'm out. Let me check this poll vote before I go. I think athletes should not be arrested, but half of you saying that they should be arrested if it's egregious enough. And I don't see something that could occur in sports that would be egregious enough for arrest. Maybe you can pick somebody up and slam them on the head and they get paralyzed. Maybe then. But I can't see the other team standing by watching you pick up a guy and dump their teammate on the head right in front of them without trying to stop it. So, again, that's probably a little bit far-fetched. All right, have a great day. JC, appreciate you chiming in, man. I'm out.